pals, and welcome to We Read It One Night, the podcast where two sisters swoon over our favorite romance. For today's episode, we literally stayed up all night watching the second season of Netflix's Bridgerton, which tells the story of Kate and Anthony Bridgerton. Kind of. Listen to us swoon, swear, and scorn this season during today's episode. A warning, this does contain spoilers. Enjoy the show. If Go Squeez would like to sponsor us, I don't think this episode would, or this podcast would happen without their Apple.
Would you like to explain what Go Squeez is?
Go Squeez are these very environmentally unfriendly, like individual packets of like essentially applesauce, and it's like only apples. Like there's not like added sugar or anything. And you can like suck on them. Like they're in like what basically amounts to like a Capri Sun pouch. It has like a twist cap. They're just delicious. So they're great for the beach if you want like a refreshing snack that won't get super sandy. They sell them in bulk at your local big box store.
I do not like the flavor, but
I don't know why. It's just apples.
Yeah.
Today, after staying up all night,
literally
not 12 hours after we finished Bridgerton season 2, we are here to discuss
for 8 of
Bridgerton season 2. Yeah, we were sleeping. I got up at 4 today. So, that's what I'm doing. PM. Yeah. I was still up at 4 a.m. So I had one whole episode left because the last episode of season 8 is like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be a recap because we already did the book. Also, I just think that's like long and boring. Just watch the show. We're going to do like 5 minutes of like, this is what changed. Here's what you missed on Glee.
Wow. It's going to be all like, this is what changed, I feel like. But
I know, but like an overview. So just if you haven't seen it yet, and I guess you don't mind spoilers because there's going to be spoilers in this. We're assuming most of you have probably binged it or at least like 85% of the way through by the time this episode is going to come out. So overview, first half basically follows the Viscount Who Loved Me, the Sharma, they're now the Sharmas in the show, Kate, Mary, and Edwina. They're coming from India. She's the diamond of the season, whatever. Anthony wants to marry her because he's a dummy. Then about halfway through, it sort of completely goes off the rails. Anthony fully proposes to Edwina. They make it all the way down the aisle until Edwina finally realizes that Anthony and her sister want to bang and runs away. Then we have 2 episodes of just full angst drama, and then Anthony and Kate finally get together at like the last possible moment in the last 5 minutes of episode 8, and then we have like a little cute second epilogue Pall Mall scene at the very end. Side plots include Benedict going to art school, Colin growing facial hair, the Featheringtons being poor, and a weird like incestuous love triangle with the new Featherington heir / a Ponzi scheme, Penelope being Lady Whistledown and all that shit, and Eloise's continued girl bossification and very brief romance with a man who could be her twin but is not. And that's what you missed on Bridgerton season 2. Does that cover all the bases?
I would say so. There's always there was just so much other side plots going on.
Let's talk about the stuff that we liked.
It started off super strong. First episode was like hilarious, especially in comparison to it was much funnier than the first season. Like it was great. We had like Anthony like going on his like speed dating tour of London and like having his little like list of like checking off like does not like books, check, like does not like I don't know.
It was just funny. I was like, wow, it's so much funnier than season 1. Like I'm so glad they went in this direction.
Yeah, just like a sequence of him like asking different random like 17-year-olds how many kids do you want, and then being like, what the fuck? And like Anthony still rabid, completely rabid. He got some kind of shots that lets him
Did we talk about that?
Rabies. I don't
know.
Did
we talk about that in our book?
Probably not.
Recap?
Well, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Well, okay. So I feel like we should give the background of this because Anthony being feral and like rabid is so season 1, Anthony had like mutton chops, and I'm operating under the assumption that everyone here listening to this has watched season 1. And if you haven't, like you're out of luck. Sorry, we started this podcast after Bridgerton first came out, so like we're just not going to do season 1. And Anthony had mutton chops in it, and he just spent the whole season eyes wide, absolutely feral, not having his rabies shot, like constantly peeking around. Like there's just something in his eyes. There's something wolfish in Anthony's eyes. He's just absolutely feral. And season 2, Anthony has shaved his mutton chops and is generally much cleaner. He just looks much more put together. And so we're like, but he's definitely still feral. Like he's still rabid. He still has rabies, but he has some sort of shot that allows him to live with rabies. And that's Anthony. So still feral, but he got his rabies shots.
Yeah. It's just hilarious. Like there's just so many moments when I'm like, wow, like that facial expression, just like grade A acting. And I feel amazing. Like this is only semi-related to this, but I feel like, so Eloise, I saw this more in the first season with Eloise, like her like mannerisms and like just how she like moves and does things. And I feel like they made, especially Benedict, but like the other siblings, to a lesser extent Anthony, like sort of all have that, and it sort of makes them all seem related because you're like, oh, they have these like similar like sort of unusual like manner, like weird, like
this feral energy,
and, like, this like, like I can't even like, I could try to act it out, but you guys can't see me, so but yeah.
The sibling relationship in general was also just really great. I think they hyped that up in this season a lot more than they did in season 1, and I really appreciated it. They also really sort of leaned into the fact that Anthony is a surrogate father, especially for his younger siblings. Like, there's a very cute moment with Gregory and Anthony in the end when they're talking about Edmund, and it just really showed this like softer side to Anthony, and some of the, you know, in some ways, some of like the benefits of being the head of household and being the older sibling is that he gets to be this role model to his younger siblings.
Mm-hmm.
The acting overall this season, I thought, was miles above season 1. I think Simone Ashley and Johnathan Bailey, who play Anthony and Kate, are like, I mean, I don't want to spend time dunking on Regé-Jean Page and Phoebe because obviously that was a success and a lot of people like them. I thought their acting was just sort of like, yeah, okay. And I didn't miss having Regé-Jean Page in here. I mean, he's beautiful and I obviously missed his face, but like I didn't need Simon as a character. Mm-hmm. But Kate and Anthony just by themselves were incredible actors, and together their chemistry was just like fucking off the charts. Like they're both, but it was so animal all the time because they were both constantly like sniffing each other and like breathing in each other's air. Like it was so like they're both constantly just like filled with like rabid energy for the other person.
Yeah. It had, we've seen this in other places, but can definitely confirm it had very like 10 Things I Hate About You vibes, which is if you haven't seen it, one of the best teen rom-coms of all time. 1999.
Shakespeare
check it out.
retellings.
Yeah, with why am I blanking on her name?
Julia Stiles and
Heath Ledger.
Yeah, not Julia Child. Imagine
Heath Ledger.
It's exactly the same, but it's Julia Child.
Yeah, Heath Ledger. What's his face's name?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, it's a hit all overall, but it's also about two sisters, and they very much the vibes of that, like Bianca, Edwina, like in a lot
the younger
of ways.
sister older sister dynamic
yeah,
of
like
Kate,
like
hard older sister who's like. Yeah. No, it definitely gave me 10 things. There are a lot of callbacks in general. Like we have like a Anthony with his, and this is in the trailer, like in the wet shirt, like 1995 Pride and Prejudice reference. There were a lot of like 2005 longing looks, hand moments, like lots of stuff like that. References. There was a Sense and Sensibility, like a 1996, 1995. The Emma Thompson Sense and Sensibility, where Alan Rickman carries Kate Winslet through the rain and like barges into the house and is immediately super worried for her. There was a scene like that with Kate and Anthony. So there was a lot of like, this season was very much like an homage, I think, in a lot of ways to like the classic romance period pieces for sure.
Yeah.
Exciting news. If you guys don't remember the Cheese Man, Mr. Finch from season 1, he and Philippa, who's the second Featherington sister, had a thing in season 1 and then they broke up. And I was like, oh my God, no, the Cheese Man, the cheese couple, because they bonded over their mutual love of cheese. But never fear, they get married in this season.
They're definitely together at the end of season 1. We're about to rewatch it tonight with our grandma.
Yeah, I'll see. Yeah.
They're definitely, because I was like solid. I was not like worried about them getting together. I like knew that they were like solidly like
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely
I don't
felt
know.
sad about the cheese man. I
Maybe I
definitely
just
felt, I was like,
invented
oh, the
that,
cheese
but
man. I don't know.
oh,
I'm
maybe I just
glad. I'm just
I don't
glad that
know.
we got confirmation. Like we saw their wedding. They're good. Divorce isn't an option.
Yeah.
They're happy. They're living their cheese dreams. It's gonna be
Yeah.
great. It's gonna be fucking great.
Yeah. I like the costumes. I like the colors a lot. Like, I don't know, I really like the Featherington, like, ridiculous color scheme. Like, it just makes me
Yeah.
happy. I know it's supposed to be, like, ugly, but I like it.
I like that Kate got to wear it because Daphne's outfits in season 1 were just all the same like shade of blue.
Mm.
And they were pretty, but it just got very tiring. And Kate's color palette was just so much more vibrant. And it was like all these jewel tones and it was beautiful. And they had like Indian, like traditional, like inspired jewelry and stuff. So they really sort of emphasized that part of their culture, which was lovely. And they all had, Kate and Edwina, not Mary because she was born in England, but Kate and Edwina both had like subtle Indian accents. Like they had the British accent because Kate like spent the first part of her life in England. And so Edwina had like a stronger Indian accent, but they both sort of had that accent that like sort of came and went in scenes. I think it was like when they were more
Mhm.
like distressed,
But
like it would come out
they did a
more.
good job though, I think, because
Yeah, no, I
obviously
thought it was really
actresses
interesting.
don't have yeah.
I also really enjoyed the cake jeweler, the jeweler. There was like this random jeweler that kept
Yeah.
popping up throughout the seasons that was always like, can I have some cake, like at the end? And I like very much like identified with this man. I thought like
No
bold
one.
move, just like you come into someone's house to like perform a service for them and then you're like, is that cake? Like I do love cake. And he just
Yeah.
like no holds brass, like he's just
No.
like he's like, give me the cake.
And everyone, like, lets him have it until Mrs. Featherington is just like, "Not today. Another day. Goodbye."
She
Like,
denies him the cake and I was like,
oh,
that cake looked good too, the one that they had on the table. I was like, let the man have cake.
yeah, she's also trying to, like, scam him at that time. So I was like, "The least you could have done is, like,
Yeah.
give him a
Well,
little
she's not
treat."
really scamming him. She's just
Wow.
trying to like get him to prove
Yeah.
that she can scam other people. That was also the Featherington Ponzi scheme. I did like, so the Featherington scheme is like the new heir comes and he's like young and hot from America and he's supposed to be rich with all these like ruby mines in Georgia, which
Yeah,
immediately
I
I
didn't
was like,
realize. Yeah.
what? But they don't actually exist. Like he's like kind of a fraudster. And then like basically it ends up that like he's gonna marry Cressida Cowper for her dowry. And then instead he marries Lady Featherington, like scams him into like being caught with Prudence, so he has to be engaged to her, and so they have to have and then he's like, "You dumb bitch! Like I don't actually have any money." But the important part, the thing that I really liked about that plotline, was the random sexual tension, like love interest, like love plotline between Lady Featherington and the new Lord Featherington, because it was like age gap, it was taboo, it was weird, it was so weird, but it was every time
No,
it
I
came
liked
on
it,
screen,
yeah.
I was like, this is hilarious. I'm so invested. And you know what? I loved Lady Featherington in season 1 too. I thought Lady Featherington was the most dynamic character in season 1. I don't think she was the most dynamic in season 2, but I was still like, yeah, Portia.
In both seasons, she just got to be, like, a bad person the entire time until the end when she, like, gets her, like I don't know what to call it, like, her, like, "No, I'm just, like, a great mother" moment, but meanwhile, like, being
Yeah,
shitty to
it's
Penelope
so
constantly, and her daughters, but I'm doing it for I do it for my girls.
she's an
Yeah.
enigma. Yeah, because at the end, the Colin, for some reason, is the one that discovers the fraud, and he's like, "You better expose yourself." And then the new Lord Featherington is like, "We got to run away to America." And Lady Featherington is like, "No, I'm going to tell everyone that you like defrauded me too. And
Yeah.
you can go away to America and I'm going to keep all the money. Okay, bye." And I was like, this is
Yeah.
great. I was like, what a great ending to this story.
Yeah, it's because she's like, "Well, what about" he's like, "Let's run away," and she's like, "Well, what about my girls?" And he's like, "Oh, well, we can send for them later." And then he, like, sees that she's not into that, and he's like, "Oh, well, they can come with us if they want, but, like, it'll be hard to convince
Yeah.
them." And that's supposed to be the moment that she,
Yeah.
like, flips.
Well, I think Mrs. Featherton is very much like Mrs. Bennet in Pride and Prejudice, where like Mrs. Bennet is really fucking annoying and really mean to most of her daughters. But
Yeah.
also like her
Ride or
whole MO
die.
is to make sure they're taken care of. And I think
Right.
that Mrs. and Lady Featherington definitely has that energy as well, where she's like, I don't respect you. I think you guys are all dumb as fuck, but I want you to be comfortable and I want you to be taken. But I recognize how
Right.
precarious your situation is in this world, and I don't want you to struggle.
Right. I was gonna save this until later, but I don't know if this is, like, too harsh, but or I don't know harsh. I don't know what the word is. I don't know if this is too much of a call out, but this Lady Featherington, cousin Jack, like, Lord Featherington, Prudence love triangle is the second familial love triangle in this series. And the thing, I mean, even in the book, it was like almost too much, like too many like Anthony Edwina scenes for me. Like I would have like cut it even less to, you know, scenes where like Anthony and Kate are talking, for example, and Edwina comes up and Anthony like drops Kate and it's like, oh, Edwina, like whatever.
Overall, though, I feel like the book generally toes the line really well.
Right, for sure. But what I was going to say, they really scaled that up. They made Edwina actually have feelings, made it into a real love triangle in the show. And then they had this like Featherington familial love triangle. And it just makes me like someone who was like very involved in this process definitely just loves watching those like stepmother, stepson, like porn. Like that's what they like.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, everyone else will love this. Let's scale this up. Like this is my kink. This is perfect. Like perfect opportunity. When meanwhile, like that was just something I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm projecting my views now, but most people tolerated it, but like would not have wanted it any more scaled up.
It's like if I had a nickel for every time there was a semi-incestual love triangle in Bridgerton, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't need it once, but like, yeah,
but
why?
Meanwhile, while I sincerely disliked the direction they went with Edwina, Kate, Anthony love triangle, I fucking loved the Featherington.
Yeah.
I thought that was the funniest fucking shit in the whole series. Like, it was hilarious.
Yeah,
I cackled every time it came on. It was great. And then the one other thing that I really enjoyed, and I feel like we can talk about the Kate Anthony chemistry more, and like we'll talk about like the sex and stuff, but the one other just like very, very small thing I enjoyed is that there's one point in I think episode 7 where Kate, Edwina, and Mary are all taking a bath and they're each in like their own like large copper tub filled with like fancy bubbles and soap, and I was like, that just seems so delicious and like decadent, and I really enjoy. We got a lot of bath scenes in there, more 1995 Pride and Prejudice references,
but not as many as we could have. When they're rolling in the mud, that would have been the perfect opportunity to have an Anthony bath scene right after that. Like 100%. Like they're literally covered in mud. They have to take a bath.
Listen,
why
we
is it
got
off
2
screen?
Anthony bath scenes. It's okay.
Did we
got
get
2? Yes, we got 2. He's in the bath twice.
I don't remember that.
In the same episode, within like 15 minutes of each other. So he could have just been in the bath the whole time.
Exactly.
Unclear, but 2 separate instances in which he's in the bath.
Okay.
At 2 different points in the episode.
There's still some missed opportunities.
You want to talk about the sex? Yeah, so I mean, they pitched a season as like, they're like, oh, it doesn't have as much sex as season 1, and everyone made a big to-do out of that. And I think a lot of like the media articles about season 1 were like, that's why it was so successful. When like, frankly, I like that there was a lot of sex, but also like the sex wasn't that great. It was just like missionary, like lasted 30 seconds. Yeah. Like I wasn't like, oh my God. And there were a lot of scenes in this. Like they don't have sex. They don't like kiss until episode 6. They don't have sex until the very end of episode 7. And we get like 1.5 sex scenes in the whole show. But there are so many scenes where they're just like so close to each other and they're just like breathing in each other's air and like sniffing each other and like not touching and like talking that are just like so much hotter than anything in season 1. Yeah. But also like the sex in season 1 felt like it had more of a point, where the actual like physical intimacy scenes in this season, they didn't feel like they moved the plot forward. They felt like they could move the plot forward. And then the very next, because they all happened to like the end of the episode. So like they moved the plot forward. And then the next episode, you're like, okay, like I know where it's going now. And then the writers were like, reel it back. Like, and it was just the same thing over and over and over again. I was like, why? It just like, it felt, I was like, this is bad sex scenes, because sex scenes are supposed to develop their relationship. They're supposed to move the plot forward, and they didn't.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. But also, like, if they actually thought that the sex was what made people like season 1, why would they try to change it purposely? I know you're saying like COVID, maybe that like impacted the amount they were able to do.
Yeah, I think there's some theories that like COVID protocols made it more difficult for them to film the intimate scenes.
But it was just that they had the constant back and forth. It was like, I don't know how universal this is, but King Ka is the highest roller coaster in the world at Six Flags. There's probably many other roller coasters like
Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey.
The kind of roller coaster is that it goes, you're sitting there, you go from 0 to 60. It's just like one huge hill, and then it like gravity like coasts you back down. It's like straight up, straight down, that kind of roller coaster. Something very traumatizing about that roller coaster is that sometimes it doesn't launch fast enough to get you over the top. So you get to the top, and instead of going over, you just go straight back down backwards and have to like relaunch, right? And that's what this fucking show, the last 50% was like. It was just constantly like the same back and forth argument. Like, we think they're making some progress, and then the very next scene is Anthony being like, no, but I have to marry Edwina, like 10 times in a row.
Or Kate being like, no, you have to marry Edwina.
Yeah, exactly, or mutually them. And I said I can't remember if I said this on the podcast before, but it's the kind of thing that I really hate in shows, and, like, The Bachelor does this a lot, like, it's the kind of thing that happens in real life a lot, like, people will, people who are, like, talking like, they'll go back and forth on the same issues, like, a lot of times. You're not gonna get, like, full closure usually the first time, like, if it's, like, a tense like, I don't know, that kind of
Yeah.
situation. But in media, I do not wanna see that. Like, it's like to use The
It gets
Bachelor as an
boring.
example. Yeah, like, they break up, I'm like, "Okay, you made some really good points. I feel like we got closure here. We're done here." And then the next scene is the producers, like, forcing the person to go back and talk again, and I'm like, "No, we were done. I got it. This is just boring." The typical, like, thing is, like, okay, they have their issues, they get over their issues. You think it's, like, all good, but there's still 50 pages left, so we need the 3rd act breakup, and then, they regress a lot, but then they, like, get together at the end. So it happens, like, once, okay, where they, like, rehash the same things. But this was, like, just over
Even
and over to
twice
the
I would have been
point.
okay with.
Right, and you said you saw it described as, like, emotional edging somewhere, right?
Yeah, I saw some reviewers, like, describing it as that.
Right, and it's like they would go back and forth without anything having even changed, right? For, like, the usual, like, 3rd act breakup,
Yeah.
there'll be, like, some big thing that happens, and that changes it. But this was just, like, they're just can't make up they're just going back and forth for no reason. It's just so tiring. I don't know, I
Yeah.
just eventually just, like, I don't know.
It was frustrating. And I can see I think also the thing is like, and I think you're the same way. Like, listen, I like slow burns to an
Yeah,
extent. I think that there are people who are really into slow burns who will be obsessed with this season because this is exactly what they want. They want the endless, like, they want I like no, there's definitely I can't I obviously because I'm dumb can't think of any example right now, but like there are absolutely very popular pieces of media that have I mean it's like fucking Grey's Anatomy. It's like fucking Sex in the City. It's Derek and Meredith. It's Big and Carrie. It's constant, like, it's just seasons long of like, will they or won't they? It's Ross and Rachel, and
right,
Friends. Like,
right.
this is a very popular thing that a lot of people enjoy, and I can see why is there always a fucking fruit fly in this room? And I can see there being people that really, really enjoy that. And so I recognize that part of the reason that I don't think we were as big a fan of it is because I just don't think we're as big a fan of like that kind of slow burn in general. But also my problem with the issue that I sort of had was that it wasn't a slow burn. Like
Right.
once, like halfway through episode 6, it stopped being a slow burn and started being, okay, we've doused the fire and it's lit
Yeah,
again, and we've doused the fire and it's lit again. Like there was no continuous burn. It was just like, God, like it was just really, really frustrating
exactly.
and inconsistent in a lot of ways. I don't know. Like there
Yeah.
just wasn't, I felt like it could have been handled better.
Yeah, inconsistent in the way that real people are, but not the way that I have any interest in seeing in fiction. Like, no, thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't call any of those, like, Grey's Anatomy Friends, I wouldn't even call them slow burns. That's just, like, will there want like, that's a slow burn,
But
yeah,
that's what
exactly
this
what you
was,
said.
though.
It's supposed to be a gradual build ending in a crescendo, not just, like, randomly banging the keys at random times and then, like, giving up and then banging
Yeah.
again and then like, no. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it had a lot to do with the fact that, like, and listen, like, this show, did we say this at the beginning of the episodes? Like, by the end of episode 4, it just veers completely off from the book. Like, there's
Right.
no similarity between this and the book. And that's fine. Listen, I am not someone who's like, this has to be 100% accurate. Season 1 wasn't 100%
Yeah.
accurate to the book. I felt like it could have been less accurate to the book in some ways, honestly, season 1.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm not going to be precious about that. But this show, and I'm also recognizing that, like, the show is not just made for romance readers. And so a lot of the expectations that we as romance novel readers have aren't necessarily going to be fulfilled when it comes to a show that's made for a wider audience like Bridgerton. However, this show was pitched like, still the concept of Bridgerton is, yes, it's this family, and yes, it's this big ensemble cast, and yes, there's a lot of different plot lines that get to happen and everybody gets a story, but at the center of each season is each Bridgerton sibling having a romantic relationship with someone. And the main driving storyline of the season is their relationship. And this season, like Kate and Anthony were a major storyline, but they were not the major storyline. They were like, I swear to God, Edwina had more lines than Kate. Like all of episode 6, when Edwina leaves Anthony at the altar, Edwina gets like 10 million girl boss speeches that don't even make sense half the time, that really fall flat. And I think that this is what they did to Daphne in season 1 as well, because Daphne and Simon, like The Duke and I is like widely considered to be just sort of like an average book. Like it's like the Viscount Who Loved Me is like most people's favorite book in the series. And so Daphne and Simon are just sort of like, they're fine, but they're kind of boring. And the thing about season 1 Daphne is that they made her more boring, and they took away the like strength and the feminism that Daphne had in the book, and they took that away in the show and then replaced it with this like girl boss version of feminism, of her being like, just because I am a woman, you think I am incapable of making my own choices. And I'm like, it was like they took away the actual strength and replaced it with girl boss strength. And they did that to Edwina as well, particularly in episode 6 when she has all those like big speeches. I was like, Edwina has this really like, she's smart and she has this really like quiet strength in the book, and she's like really loves her sister, and she like understands the situation that they're in. And the way that they wrote her just completely undermined that, and then like tried to give her this big character arc of like becoming less naive and becoming strong and powerful and like in her own right, and like standing up to Kate. Like what? Yeah, it was just, I was like, you made her, like you tried to make her this different kind of feminism and this different kind of strength that ended up just feeling really cheap. It felt like a commercial entity. It felt like a giant conglomeration wrote this, which is what happened.
Yeah. And it just didn't make any sense. It was just like her first big speech is like, I'm going to make my decision just based on myself. It's going to have nothing to do with you, Kate. And it's like, that's literally what Kate was saying. Like, no,
like
what?
Kate wants
like,
you to do that. That was the whole point. Kate's whole goal was to not burden you with this, so that you would make things based on just what you wanted, make decisions based on what you wanted.
And like in the book, Edwina is like, you know, Kate and Anthony have this in common, that they're both like, oh, well, I have to take the entire burden. Like no one else can know what it is to be like my struggle and like have all this responsibility. But like then Kate has to realize that like, no, Edwina has been feeling this huge amount of pressure. She thinks she has to get married to like provide for her mother and sister. And for some reason in the show, they took that away. Like Edwina didn't even know about their like money troubles because Kate intentionally kept it from her. Mary didn't even know, their mom.
Mary did keep the money troubles a little bit. It is, but Mary didn't know the full extent, because there's this whole dumb subplot with like Mary's parents, the Sheffields, who are like rich assholes, and like, you know, there's like the whole subplot with that like Kate knows it and she's been keeping it from Edwina and Mary. Yeah, it just like doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so Edwina doesn't even have the whole thing of like, oh, I think I'm doing this for my family. It's like, I think I'm doing it for myself, which is what Kate wanted her to do, which is like not at all growth. I don't know. It's just.
And the thing is like they gave Edwina that whole character arc of her going from like naive girl to like, you know, strong woman or whatever, who may or may not end up with Prince Friedrich. I don't know. I'm into that. There's like a little tidbit at the end of episode 8. But then they didn't really give Kate any character development. There's like a little bit where she like realizes that like she belongs in the family. She doesn't have to earn her place in the family, because like that's supposed to be her whole thing, which like that really only like is actually explored for like a brief 5-minute conversation with Mary in the last episode. And so Kate doesn't really change. Like she doesn't have the character growth, and they gave it all to Edwina. And it was very odd that they made Edwina such a big character at the expense of their main couple.
Yeah.
And this is nothing against the actress. People bullied the actress off Twitter. So I want to say, like, I really liked the actress. She was very, very talented. And she was a great Edwina. Like, she played her very well.
For sure.
And I think she would have been a great book Edwina as well. You know what I mean?
Right. And like it brings us to like in the book, Edwina didn't have any feelings for Anthony. Like she realized she was like secretly like matchmaking, you know, she wanted Kate and Anthony. Like she like saw where the wind was blowing. For some reason, it's like it brings me to the incest porn. Like I just don't understand why they had to make Edwina like be heartbroken. Why?
Yeah, she's like actually in love. She says I'm in love with him.
And so therefore they had to have all this like groveling and like 2 episodes of like still back and forth where like Kate has to wait for Edwina to forgive her, which I get, but it's only because they set it up to Edwina actually being heartbroken and getting all the way to the wedding. Therefore, they couldn't just have like Kate and Anthony get together right after that, because they would have looked like assholes. Like, you know, it was so unnecessary. Like you didn't need to make them look that much like assholes to then necessitate wasting 2 fucking episodes to unasshole them.
Yeah.
Like,
and listen, I didn't need it to follow the book where Anthony and Kate get married in like episode 6. Because if it followed the book, like that's what it would do. I don't need it. I understand for the adaptation wanting to do that like slow burn and wanting to do that enemies to lovers and keep that going like until the end, but not this way.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I just couldn't. So in the book, they are forced to get married because of the bee scene. So okay, so let me get into this. All right, so
there's no titty sucking.
Right, they're in the garden. Kate gets stung by a bee. Anthony's dad died by being stung by a bee, so he naturally like starts freaking out. And in the book, he like tries to suck out the venom, which won't even work for snakes, so don't do that. But he tries to suck out the venom, and then like Mrs. Featherington, the gang, like comes upon them and is like, "Oh my God, you're like kissing your boobs. You have to get married."
Lord, girl, he had his mouth on your bubbies. The best line in the whole series.
Yes, and they didn't do that. And I honestly, I thought it was kind of silly in the book. It's because of the fucking beast. It was it felt very contrived,
It was
very
so
like
silly.
Yeah, like they would have gotten together anyway. It felt very like, oh, now we're being forced, like whatever. But I can't believe I would miss that, because if they had just done that in the show, it would have been so much better. And also, I didn't like that he just kind of has like kind of a panic attack. Like he's like worried, but I wanted
Kate
him
calms him down.
Right, but I like that it was about him like wanting to save her and like being, he's like, why do I hate this person? Why do I care so much? She's about to die. Like, why am I like so intent on like saving her life that I'm like sucking the venom out? Like, but he didn't do that, and it was just I just can't believe that that's a scene I would have like preferred to have in, that they managed to like make it work. Like, not that it wasn't that bad, but it was like it kind of cut the chemistry like they were building anyway. Yeah.
And also the library scene where like, because Kate, so they like briefly mention that Kate like doesn't like thunderstorms, but it's not really
For no
like they
reason,
completely
yeah.
cut that part of her trauma. And so we don't, instead of having like a library scene where Anthony is like comforting Kate, they just kind of like talk, have another like, we're gonna stand with our mouths like 2 inches apart but not kiss and like just breathe in each other's air, and then they leave. And like, again, like I'm totally fine with them cutting Kate's thunderstorm thing, because I also thought that was just silly in the book. And I still think that they maintained that like parallel trauma of like both having lost their fathers, both like being parentified by their now widowed mothers, like both feeling like they have to like be the only person who takes on the boundaries for their family. And so I did think that they did that well, and I did think that was like, I was like, okay, like it was very like constantly they were like, you guys are the same person. It like they were saying they're the same person. Daphne was telling them the same person. Like,
but all of those conversations and all of that growth happened with other people. It didn't happen with them.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was frustrating. Like there were so many scenes where they were talking with other people, and they just really they didn't have scenes where they were together.
Which is another thing that in real life, ideally, I feel like you would work through your trauma and talk through it and then be ready to be in a relationship, instead of like, in real life, yes. In a book though, like, instead of like getting together and then working through your trauma together, but like that's not how it's done. I don't know. Like it's just, there was like no growth of them together. No, like he didn't even explain ever like why he was so,
I wish they had a heart to heart about that.
Right, like his whole thing is like he's afraid to be in love because of how fucked up his mom was after his dad died, and it was really
she
fucked
parentified him.
Sure.
Yeah. No. Okay. So they actually show the flashback scenes. Like they change it. So in the book, it's Eloise who sees the dad die, but in the show, it's Anthony, which I like. Like I like that.
He acts like it was him. He ignores it anyway in the book.
Yeah, but the scene. So there's that scene. Then there's the scene where like he like realizes he's the new Viscount, and everybody's asking him questions, and he's overwhelmed because he's just a kid. And then there's the scene when Lady Bridgerton, Violet, is giving birth, and like he's being asked by the doctor.
So it's Violet's giving birth, the baby's in breech, which was very dangerous back in the day because it means the baby's upside down, like the wrong way. And the doctor's like, Anthony, you need to decide, like, if it comes down to it, who am I going to save, like the baby or the mom? And meanwhile, Violet's over there, the one literally giving birth. It's her body, her life. And she's like, he can't decide. Like, he's a kid. Like, he's not the one who should decide. Like, but I guess she's not saying I should decide either. She's like, my husband should have decided. He's the one who should have decided, like, because he's the Viscount, like he's dead. But I'm like, this is just so fucked up. And it's another one of those things of like,
very upset for Violet.
I didn't need my misogyny to be so stated. Like, I just didn't need that.
I mean, Anthony does ultimately leave it up to her. So.
I understand, but it was just like I made me so angry. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you're gonna let this like 18-year-old child, like, or let anyone else, literally anyone else, make that decision?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can see like you don't want to put the person in that situation, but like no.
Yeah, it was also like, but there was like really beautiful scenes with Violet and Anthony just like talking about like all of that trauma. And there was this, what?
Well, the second part of that trauma is that in the days afterwards, like we see a conversation between Violet and Anthony's like, can you please like make more of an effort? Like your kids miss you. And Violet's like, I wish the baby had just killed me. Like that's what I would have wanted. Yeah. And so that really fucks him up. He's like, wow, like I can never be, I can, it's, he's like, I can never die and then have my wife be like that, basically.
Which I liked a lot better as the trauma. I mean, that is still kind of the trauma in the book, but I liked that better than the whole I'm gonna die by 39 thing. Like they didn't really do that. They did like constantly, you know, he's looking at his dad's watch, and they are constantly like, oh, you're running out of time. But he was never like, yes, I am going to die by 39. And I was like, I didn't think it was necessary in the book. I was like, this is fine. But like, I feel like the show had more emotional depth with it.
Yeah, it made it the only thing it did was say like he was for sure like certain that this was going to happen, that if he married someone who loved them, he would like do this to them, versus in the show it was like just a what if. But yeah.
But yeah, there's this like really beautiful scene at the end between Violet. So Kate goes horseback riding, falls over a horse, and goes into a brief coma in the last episode. And this is when Anthony like carries her through the rain or whatever. And Anthony, he is like obviously super feral and like worried about her the whole time. And he and Violet have this conversation in the last episode that's like a big heart to heart about like, she was like, you know, like I really wasn't there for you. Like I fucked you up. Basically Violet's like, yeah, I fucked you up and I'm sorry. You know what I mean? She's like, how I reacted after Edmund died, which again, I'm not blaming Violet. Like, I'm not necessarily blaming Violet because that fucking sucks. And also she was pregnant. She probably had postpartum depression. Like Violet was going through it. But she is like, you know, like I failed you in a lot of ways as a mom. And then Anthony finds out that Kate's okay. And he just like bursts into tears. And it's like the first time, like he's in the early episodes, he's like, I didn't even cry when my dad died. Like I haven't cried since.
Daphne says it.
Yeah. And like, then he just cries when he knows Kate's okay. And that was just so, because that's the thing, Kate and Anthony, like as a couple, I am obsessed with them. They could step on me. Their chemistry was wonderful. Johnathan and Simone were like perfect. Like it was perfectly cast. And I just wanted more. And I was so frustrated that we had to sacrifice more of Anthony and Kate for all these other things that I don't think worked as well. Like they were just like holy fucking shit. Simon and Daphne, who? Kate and Anthony are here.
Yeah. One more thing to say about the Hyacinth's traumatic birth is that it has now been worked into like both season 1 and season 2. So in season 1, we get this like little thing of like Daphne talking about how Eloise being like, aren't you scared of childbirth? Like I remember, and Daphne was like, yeah, I remember like singing to you to distract you when mom was going to die. And now we have obviously this thing with Anthony. And I just wonder if they're going to work it into like every storyline until finally culminating with Hyacinth's own trauma of being born. Like Hyacinth is born and traumatized. Like I don't know.
One can only hope. Netflix, take notes. And then my last sort of complaint, and then I want to talk about Newton. I want to just talk about more of the rabies.
Okay.
My also complaint was like this wasn't nearly as booby enough. They kept giving us they made this interesting costuming decision where they had all these characters wearing these outfits that was like, it was like a, you know, a square necked dress and then like a V-neck over it, which gave the very strong vibe of like 2005 middle school chastity like undershirts, where like, you know, you're wearing a V-necked t-shirt, but you got to like wear a tank top underneath to like cover your boobs because God forbid middle school girls have boobs. And it was the whole season. I was like they did it to Violet, and Violet's tits were off the, like rewatching season 1 now with our grandma, like Violet's tits were off the fucking charts. I was like, let Violet be titty. Let those titties be free. And like all the I was like,
take them.
Where are the tits?
I'm trying to see them.
I was very upset. Take them titties out because I want to see them. Like, let me see the boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much as I loved though Kate and Anthony, we do have to give credit to the other enemies to lovers arc in this season, which was Newton and Anthony, which is not resolved. And I hope will be. Kate and Anthony are going to be in season 3.
It is resolved.
It's confirmed. No, because in the epilogue, in the like last scene epilogue, he's like, Newton steals the one of the Pall Mall balls, and then Anthony's like, he never listens to me. So like they're still rivals.
My theory at first was that Newton was growling at Anthony because he sensed the nearness of rabies. And he was like, don't you fucking come near me because I know you're going to give it to me. Like, stay the fuck back. There ain't no vaccine for me, bro. And then, but then it was probably still partially that, but it seemed more like he just didn't like that Anthony was there for Edwina. But as soon as he was there for Kate, he like came up and was like all friendly to Anthony. But yeah.
There are multiple scenes where like Anthony and Newton have like stare offs and then like Newton growls at him. It's wonderful. It's just an absolute delight. But yeah, I was like, I hope we get that resolved in season 3 because Kate, it's confirmed that like Kate's going to be in season 3. I'm pretty sure after like Regé-Jean Page left, they were like securing cameos for all the actors. But also because this whole season really set up. Anthony was constantly like, my wife is going to be the woman of the house. She's going to be responsible for all of my siblings now. Like she, you know what I mean? Like, so like they were definitely setting up, okay, like Kate and Anthony are still going to be like major players in the upcoming seasons, which I'm glad about because again, we got like 5 minutes of them being a happy couple. And so like I want season 3 to just be all of them being a happy couple.
Yeah. I can't imagine it without Anthony, honestly. Like this year.
Yeah, I mean,
the show.
He has to.
He just has to be there, like foaming in the background, like looking around doors.
Feral. We saw him. Oh yeah, that's another thing we saw with the flashbacks. We saw him transforming. We saw him get infected with rape. The bee stung Edmund and killed Edmund, but it also infected Anthony with rabies. We literally see Johnathan Bailey, like Anthony fucking stares at his dad. His dad dies in Violet's arms. Like Violet runs out. She's like, oh my God. And then Anthony's staying there and his face is just shaking. And you can just see like the feral energy entering his eyeballs. And it's like a fucking, it's like a werewolf transformation.
Yeah, no, 100. Yeah, God, 100%. Yeah.
I was like, this is amazing. I'm so glad we got the backstory for this. Like,
it's not even us that noticed it. Like both Violet and Daphne are like, you completely changed after your dad died.
Yes,
like, that
it's because he became a werewolf.
Completely different person. Yeah. God,
it's fucking great. I really enjoyed that. I just really enjoy Anthony and Kate as characters, and I think both of those actors are super talented, and I just really wish that we had gotten more of them. I feel like they were criminally underutilized in a season that should have been more about them. That was just, disappointing.
Oh, well, there were a bunch of plant puns for both Penelope and Colin. Like, separately.
That was funny.
Yeah.
But I'm having a lot of trouble. I am very excited for Benedict's season, which is interesting because I don't love Benedict's book, but I really like Benedict in the show. And I think he's also a really good actor. And I like how they sort of set. I mean, I didn't like having the subplot because it took away from Anthony and Kate, but I like the subplot and what it gave us about Benedict, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so I'm excited for his season. I'm even excited for him to be straight, even though I think it would be way better if he were gay. Yeah, so I'm excited for his next season. I'm not super excited for season 4, which is Penelope and Colin, because I just think Colin is like a sack of trash. Like, I just really don't like Colin. Like, there's really nothing about Colin where I'm like, why does Penelope like this man? Like, I don't understand. He's not a hero, and they're gonna have to do so much work. Because here's my thing: book Colin is like not that much. Like, that book is very like there's not really a lot of like hero moments for Colin in that book. Like, it's very sort of low key. So like you're really gonna have to depart from the book.
Yeah, it seems like the kind of thing where Penelope should like realize that she's been like crushing on this guy for like, you know, who doesn't deserve her, and then get a better storyline. Like,
yeah, or ready, she finally gets over Colin, and then Colin is like, oh my God, I love her, and then we just get the whole season of Colin courting Penelope, and like Colin trying to like win Penelope over. Like,
we're gonna need.
I'm fine with that. Colin needs to put in some work. Colin has put in no work,
right?
Like in any capacity. He just grew shitty facial hair and went to Greece and colonized. Like, that's what he did.
And came back pronouncing words obnoxiously with like an accent. And he'd be like, oh, have you been to I don't even know, like
the whole season Eloise is roasting him for talking about Greece all the time. Like, every interaction they have is her being like, oh my God, he never fucking stops talking about Greece.
I interpreted that more as Eloise being like, wow, I'm jealous that you got to like go and I couldn't.
Yeah, so I'm excited about season 2. I'm excited to see more happy couple Kate and Anthony. Oh yeah, and then we also have to see the fallout of Penelope or Eloise finding out that Penelope is Lady Whistledown.
Oh yeah, because Yeah, so Eloise is, like, accused of being Lady Whistledown by the queen, and the queen, like, basically threatens her family unless she, like, agrees to fall in line and,
Which
like,
is
you
so
know, push
the
propaganda for the fucking queen is just so yeah.
weird.
Yeah, and just yeah, but so obviously Eloise is like, "Oh my god, Penelope, like, this sucks," and Penelope's like, "Fuck, I have to, like, get her out of this, like, I could go talk to the queen myself, but, like, would she even, like, see me?" Which seemed kind of weak, like, you should at least try that first, but she's like, "Alright, well, I have to the only thing I can do is, like, publish something about Eloise that she would never publish herself." So she publishes about, like, Eloise going to these, like, radical rallies or whatever, which she has done.
I know, and being friends with the printer boy who is her twin.
She didn't publish that though, but she did, like, tell
She
Eloise.
did.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
No, because that's what she, like, threatens Eloise with. She's like, "People are already talking about you and Theo." But anyway, so that's, like, kind of, makes things shitty for Eloise, like, that sucks. And right after that, like, Eloise starts suspecting Penelope, and Lady Whistledown has also stopped writing, and then she, like, goes and, like, you know, breaks into her room and, like, rummages through all her
Ransacks
stuff. Yeah, and
Penelope's
finds her
room.
money, and she's like, "I know it was you," and, like, is obviously really
They have a whole
upset.
falling out,
Why
yeah.
doesn't I don't know why Penelope doesn't have, like, a story ready to go in case anyone ever found the money, like, "Oh, papa gave me some, like, emergency funds. He, like, only trusted me, like,
Yeah.
just in case something happened," like especially because Eloise would have no reason to doubt that because Eloise presumably doesn't know that the dad was, like, a gambler and didn't really care about Penelope. So,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go
I
with
don't
that.
know.
It'll be interesting whether, like, a new person finds out about Penelope every season.
Yeah.
Because 'cause I'm like, I don't know, it's supposed to be a secret. Like, is it still gonna be revealed at large in season 4? Are they gonna keep that secret until season 8? And if they do, like, how many people are gonna be fucking aware by the time we get there? Like,
Well, obviously Penelope trusts Eloise not to tell anyone because she starts writing again, unless, like you said, she's just like, "Fuck it, I don't care anymore." But
yeah, I think there's, like, an element of both. Like, I don't think Eloise is gonna tell anyone, but I think Penelope is just sort of, like, absolutely going wild now. Like, she's like, "I don't give a fuck about anyone anymore." Because she also this is the time when she hears so in the book, there's, like, a moment where Colin's like, "I'm certainly not going to marry Penelope Featherington," as just, like, not necessarily mean-spirited, and in the show, they made it, like, infinitely mean-spirit, like, he's, like, shit
mhm.
like, talking shit with, like, all these, like, bros, and Penelope overhears, and so she's, like, really upset, and that's when she goes to write. She's like, I'm done with this shit. Which is why I kind of a little bit have hope that, Colin's gonna have to, like, really earn it.
Mhm. Yeah, like, they didn't even need that, like, that was overkill. He was already, like, in a place where, like,
He
I
was
don't know, he
constantly
didn't like
friend zoning
him.
her.
Yeah.
Oh, another good thing I liked, they used proper forms of address for Kate and Edwina. Kate was always Miss Sharma. Edwina was always Miss Edwina Sharma. They never strayed. They never disrespected Kate
Uh-huh.
by implying that Miss Sharma would ever refer to Edwina. It was great. I was
Yeah.
very proud of
That
them
was
for
great.
that.
Yeah.
Well done, friends.
Mhm.
I also just like that everyone got haircuts in this season as well. All the
Yeah.
boys got haircuts. Like, which is funny because their dumbass haircuts in the first season are like the most historic, like one of the very historically accurate things that they do in the show. And I was just like, no, I don't want it.
I liked Eloise's haircut too. It was better.
Yeah, Louise's hair is better in season 2. Everybody else's hair was the same, basically. They gave a lot of moments to Lady Danbury and Kate that could have
Oh,
been moments between Kate and Mary. Like, they just sort of like pushed Mary to the sidelines, which was kind of stunk because like I really like I that's one of the things that like I really enjoyed,
right.
like having that dynamic of like, especially because Mary's not Kate's biological mother,
But
you
yeah,
know.
they simultaneously, like, made Mary facially more Kate's, like, mother. Like, they didn't have in the book, she's constantly like, "Oh, I love like, you're as good as my daughter, but I'm not your mother. I'm not your mother." We know about but it's because she's trying to, like, keep her mother's memory alive and, but here it's like there's never a moment where she says anything like that. Like, she always like my 2 daughters, like, whatever. But at the same time, it's like she's not a mother to really Kate or Edwina. Like, she's just, like, not she's
Yeah.
not a participant. She completely, like, parentified Kate. I don't
Yeah, when are we gonna get a fucking romance where parentification isn't part of the character's draw?
I know. And going back to Lady Danbury, like, her whole thing just didn't make any sense. She was, like, telling Kate, like, "Oh, you need to find love," but then, like, telling her that only a fool would, like, disrupt the wedding or whatever, which is true, but,
Yeah,
like, it was just
it was very odd because Lady Danbury gave all these speeches in season 1 about like, don't give a fuck about society, just follow your
right.
heart. And then she was like, half did that in this season, but also like completely changed like she just waffled a lot and it was very odd.
Yeah, and then even after the wedding was called off because Anthony was in love with Kate, or are they not, like, aware of that? They are, right? Like, they like, her both
Yeah.
Lady Danbury and Mrs. Bridger and Violet Bridgerton are, like, seemingly they're just like, "We have to pretend like nothing happened, like, you guys need to not ta Kate and Anthony need to not talk to each other, you can still never be together." Like, it just
Yeah, I thought they were gonna make the solution like, okay, we'll make the scandal go away by Kate and Anthony getting together to show that there's no like bad will in the families or whatever. Like I thought that would have been interesting. And then we could have had 2 episodes and we still could have had Edwina being upset. We still could have had that like the resolution that was needed there. But then we would have had 2 episodes of like guaranteeing that Anthony and Kate actually get some one-on-one time and actually get some like development in their
Right.
relationship. And we didn't.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that as the angle of, like, oh, showing the families are okay, 'cause I mean, in real life, I don't know if that would work with making the scandal go away,
No,
but I
no,
feel like
no,
in
no.
yeah, in, like, historical romances
In Bridgerton world, yeah,
yeah,
it's fine.
that's the thing about them is, like, even within the same book, the same thing can, like, at one point be something that absolutely is so scandalous they have to get married, and then, like, later on be, like, not that big of a deal, you know? Like
Yeah. To end on a positive note, they were really fucking great. And you know what? If you like slow burns and if you've never read the book, you may really enjoy this season. But it wasn't even I don't want to
no.
say
I just need more of them
I
not
think I could have
saying the same
enjoyed it.
shit.
Yeah. I think if you just really neutralize your expectations going in, even from season 1,
Even from the
it
first
could be
episode.
enjoyable. You know, I'm not going to yuck anyone's yum, but
Mhm.
yeah. I think that also part of me is also blaming Netflix because I really think they could have done this. I think the pacing was just really slow. Like there were parts where like we would just get subplots for 20 minutes between Kate and Anthony scenes and I was like, why? And I think that they could have done this in like 6 episodes and I think
Mhm.
like that wasn't even a possibility because Netflix was like we have to do 8 episodes cuz season 1 was 8 episodes. Cuz the episode 6 as a whole, it's just the wedding. The whole episode is the wedding and
Oh
it
my god,
went
yeah,
on
we
for
didn't ugh,
so long.
can't believe we
We
didn't
don't
say
have to
that
I mean
yet.
I don't want to start like nitpicking.
No, but the wedding, like, come on, a wedding that's not the main like, for what? For what? And then Kate goes in the closet, they don't even make out in the closet, like, come
They don't
on.
even make out in the closet. Oh my god. I was so upset. And then they make out in the church instead. I was like, you were gonna have them make out this episode. Why can't they make out in the closet? Whatever. C'est la vie. I'm still gonna fucking watch season 3. I'm still gonna be fucking excited for season. You know what I mean? Like I'm still gonna be hyped for season 3.
The gaslighting is off the charts, like, especially with Kate to
Oh my god,
Edwina and
no.
Anthony, because she's like, "No, we didn't kiss. That didn't
Oh my
happen."
god. And but also with Penelope. Penelope's whole
Oh,
like
yeah.
slogan this fucking season is gaslight gatekeep girl boss. Like she's constantly gaslighting,
Yeah,
especially Eloise. It's
Eloise.
wild.
Yeah.
It's so insane how much she gaslights Eloise.
All the way to the end, yeah, because her whole thing is trying to find Lady
Wow.
Viscount,
Yeah, she
yeah.
even tries to do like a last ditch gaslight at the end.
Yep, and it would've worked too if she just had a story ready to go.
It's great.
Those meddling coins, yeah. God.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite part of the season.
The first the Anthony speed dating montage.
My favorite parts were all Anthony gives like a gazillion love speeches to Kate. And in isolation, like in the context of the show, they were frustrating because they didn't move the plot along as much as I wanted them to. But in isolation, every single one of them was gold. I was like, this is fucking fabulous. I love it. You are like my greatest vexation and the objects of my greatest desires. Like at one point, Anthony's like, don't make me marry my sister because I will cheat on her with you.
Yeah, like
Which I know is like bad, but just like the way it was phrased is great. There's another like monologue scene he gives right before they fuck in a outside gazebo for the first time.
so random, yeah.
and then the very, very end, he gives this whole like love that he's like, I'm in love with you. It's just, yeah, I really enjoyed all of Anthony's many, many confessions of love scenes to
And he
Kate.
wakes up and she's gone, like, we don't even get and then she's in a coma for a week, like
He wakes up, she's gone on a dramatic ride through the rain. He goes to her house to apologize and also to propose. And then he's like, oh my God, she went for a rain. Because they were like, Anthony was doing a dramatic ride in the park.
Mhm.
And then Kate was like also riding in the park. And like, she was like the mysterious, like whatever. And like, that's how they
Yeah.
met. In like just treating the scenes as they are and not looking them in the greater context of the episode.
Yep.
I really enjoyed them. They really kept me going. When Anthony and Kate burned, it was like hot as fuck.
Yeah. So cat scale, very low.
Yeah. I'm going to say like 1.
Eloise
Honestly.
is the only cat-like movements, I
I
feel
don't
like.
even know. She's like a chihuahua. She's like Brewster Woods in Legally Blonde.
Well, a bit. I see it, but he's a little cat-like too.
just very low because Anthony is a rabid dog. Kate didn't really give me animal vibes.
Kate's a dog too. She's like a Doberman.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Like,
but a Doberman who like is also a lap dog. You know?
Oh, for sure. Well, I think Dobermans are like very unfairly. The image of them is very much like not what their temperament is actually like.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 1. Anyway, yeah, no, yay, feral dog, Anthony.
Yeah, just the
glad he got
eyes.
his rabies shot at the end.
I want to go watch an interview of him in normal life to see if he's like that or if like that's just something he managed to like perfect. Like it's so impressive.
I think that's something he managed to perfect because I don't, you know what? I don't think he. Just thinking back, and again, we watched like the last episode at like 4:30 and like a semi like you know like fugue state, but I don't think he has the crazy eyes at the very end. Because when he's like finally professes love to Kate, Kate says she loves him too, and then in like the epilogue where they're playing Pow Bow again and they're like cute and happy and like they have a little like naked morning in bed, you get to see Simone Ashley's ass. Unfortunately, we don't get to see Newton's ass. How do you have a corgi and not have a wobble butt moment? I don't know. Missed opportunity. But about Anthony, like in those last like 10 minutes when he's like happy with Kate, he's finally allowing himself to be happy, like he's like the rabies shot finally works. You know, he's gotten his booster and it's like it's good. The booster of love, like he's got.
Yeah, it just reminds me of like you know the whole like Robert Pattinson thing where he like was wanted Edward to they sent him like Twilight with all the Edward smiles circle and he sent back like Edward frowns and then they were like no his agent was like no you really have to fucking like be a little bit more cheery or they're gonna fire you. I could just see like what's his name again?
Oh, Johnathan Bailey
just like doing that with him being like he's got to be fucking rabid and they're like all right fine you've charmed me like
all right you've
yeah because I don't know where else that would have come from. It's just inspired.
He's like I am an Olivier nominated actor. I think that's true. I think he's been nominated for an Olivier Award, which is like the British Tonys, basically, because he's like a theater actor. I think that's one of the other reasons why he's so good at playing the rabbit, because he's a theater actor, and that always has to be like larger than life when you're on stage. So he knows how to like just go absolutely wild. Yeah, he's just rabid. Good job, Johnathan. Good job, Simone. Hope we get much more of you in season 3. Sincerely, I hope you get your whole subplot in season 3. But like a subplot that just involves like who stole the mallet of death, and that's like their whole subplot in season 3. Like you know what I mean, there's no like marital troubles, it's just them being like cute,
rolling in the mud together. They roll in the mud, people. They
roll in the mud.
Personally,
it's very the mud scene when Anthony tries to help her get out of the mud is very like Gilbert, Blythe rescues and Shirley in like the 1980s TV movies.
Green Gables
specifically. Anne of Green Gables. The Gilbert rescues Anne from the water, from the pond.
All right.
Where can they find us, Rachel?
Well, they can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and now YouTube at We Read It One Night. They can also find us on Twitter at We Read It Podcast. You can email us any suggestions, comments, literally anything you want. We read it one night at gmail.com.
And make sure to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen if you can do that. And also, if you could like download the episodes when you listen to them, you can like undownload them when you're done, but like download them when you listen to them. That's how most podcasting services track how many people listen to an episode. So that helps us a lot. Streaming also helps us too, but you know, in terms of like visibility and stuff. So
also we finally hit 10,000 followers on TikTok. So very exciting. Thank you for that. If you were instrumental in that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Anyway.
Godspeed,
comrades.